consists of being the second or third senior lawyer on a bench trial?
Senator, yes, it was a week-long trial involving complicated constitutional issues, and my role, again, was I helped draft and prepare all the briefing.
But you've never done jury selection, never done voir dire, for example.
When I was a law...
Welcome back to Freedom Forge, where we stand for truth, liberty, and American values every single day. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It helps us fight back against big tech and the mainstream media that want to silence patriot voices like yours and mine. We will always tell it how it is. Today, what you're about to see is one of the most revealing examples of the disconnect between Washington's so-called best and brightest and real Americans who actually work for a living. We're diving into a recent Senate hearing where a Department of Justice nominee, Ms. Westerkamp, is grilled, rightfully so, on her actual experience and credentials. Now, this is more than some stuffy committee hearing. This is your government. These are the people who make enormous decisions that affect your freedom, your rights, your families, and yes, our Constitution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a few questions. Ms. Westerkamp, are you familiar with the term Performance Improvement Plan, sometimes referred to as a PIP?
Yes.
Would you agree that employees subject to a PIP are essentially being notified that some aspect of their performance is unacceptable?
Yes.
Have you ever been subject to a performance improvement plan in your time at the Department of Justice?
No, sir. Senator, I've received excellent ratings.
So there's never been any issue your superiors or supervisors have had that required anything like a performance improvement plan?
No, Senator.
Thank you. Lane, I wanted to ask you about your experience trying cases. Have you ever tried a case to a verdict before a jury?
Senator, I've worked on a bench trial, and as a federal law clerk, I handled 7 trials.
I was a federal law clerk as well. I wouldn't say that I handled the trials. I think the judge handled the trials. But let me ask you about your experience with the bench trial. Were you the lead counsel in that case?
No, Senator, I was part of a small team of attorneys.
Were you the senior or associate counsel on the case?
Yes, Senator, I was an associate on the case. There were 4 attorneys on the case. I was responsible for helping prepare witnesses, helping second chair depositions. I also took a deposition myself. I cross-examined a witness at trial, and I was responsible for all the pretrial and post-trial briefing, findings of facts, conclusions of law.
And of the 4 attorneys, how many were more senior to you on that team?
Senator, I believe 2. There were several people who came in to assist, but again, my responsibilities, I was the primary drafter for all the briefing.
No, I heard that. I just want to understand. So your trial experience consists of being the second or third senior lawyer on a bench trial?
Senator, yes, it was a week-long trial involving complicated constitutional issues, and my role, again, was I helped draft and prepare all the briefing.
But you've never done jury selection, never done voir dire, for example?
When I was a law clerk, Senator, 5 of the trials before the judge who I clerked for were jury trials, and so I had the opportunity.
And I was a law clerk. It was a great experience, but I didn't pick the jury when I was a law clerk. I didn't question the jurors. I didn't seek to use a peremptory or other challenge for cause for a juror. That's really not the role of a law clerk. You observe it, but you don't do it yourself. And so have you, apart from the bench trial, have you cross-examined witnesses in any kind of other jury trial or any jury trial?
Senator, in that case, I cross-examined a lay witness. I also deposed an expert, and I was...
Never before a jury. Have you ever filed or argued a motion to eliminate?
Yes, Senator, I've, in that matter, handled several motions in limine as well as in other matters, particularly at preliminary injunction stage. Some of the litigation I've been involved with has had extensive evidentiary records at the preliminary injunction stage. So I've filed and handled many motions in limine, Senator.
Many motions eliminate in that one bench trial.
Yes, Senator. In that one bench trial, I handled several motions in limine, but I've also handled motions in limine in other litigation, again, more at the preliminary injunction stage, seeking to establish a clear record going into a preliminary injunction hearing where there may be live witnesses, evidentiary issues, kind of at that initial stage.
Okay, thank you. I'm not trying to denigrate your experience as a law clerk. I think it's a great experience, and I highly encourage those graduating from law school to pursue clerkships. But having tried cases as an assistant U.S. attorney, it's not the same thing to observe them and to do them yourself. I'm sure you would agree. But thank you. I appreciate it. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you.
So let's get into it. First off, if you haven't seen the hearing, let me give you the rundown. The Senate Judiciary Committee was questioning Ms. Westerkamp, a nominee for a federal legal position. Now, every administration picks folks for these jobs, but what matters, what should always matter, is whether these people are truly qualified to wield this kind of power. And let me tell you, this hearing was eye-opening. Let's start at the beginning. The senator rightly asks about performance improvement plans, or PIPs as they're sometimes called. Now, most folks in the private sector know these all too well. It's what happens when your boss says, hey, your work isn't cutting it. Here's how you fix it, or else. You'd expect anyone in a position of serious responsibility to have been subject to serious standards, right? But apparently not for Ms. Westerkamp. She says she's never been flagged for unacceptable performance, never had to go on a PIP, and has only received excellent ratings. Ask yourselves, Patriots, does that sound like the real world to you? Or does it sound like the typical government system where insiders rise up the ranks without ever facing real scrutiny? But it gets better or worse depending on how you look at it. The senator digs deeper, asking about her actual trial experience. Patriot friends, this is the Department of Justice. This is not a place for amateurs. These are people who will argue some of the most important cases in the country. And what do we find out? Ms. Westerkamp has never actually led a trial before a jury. That's right, never. Her closest experience is as a junior member in a bench trial. And even there, she wasn't the lead attorney. She admits she's never done jury selection, never questioned a juror, never had to make those snap decisions that can make or break a case. This is what separates true litigators, people who have battled in the trenches, felt the heat, and defended their positions when it counts, from those who sit on the sidelines and help out. As the senator points out, and I agree with him entirely, being a law clerk is an excellent learning experience, but it is not the same as being the one in the crosshairs. Real-world law is not an academic exercise. It's not a nice resume line. It is high stakes, high pressure, and it takes grit. Where's the grit here? Even her answers about cross-examining witnesses and handling motions in limine are telling. She's done it mostly in the context of bench trials, not jury trials. She hasn't argued a motion to exclude evidence in front of a live, skeptical jury with a judge watching every move. She's participated, sure, but again, she was one of the more junior attorneys on the team. It's always, I helped with this, I drafted that. Never. I stood up and led the charge. Patriots, why does this matter? Because every time we let the swamp fill up with career bureaucrats who've never faced real accountability, real deadlines, or real pressure, America loses. We get more of the same, more unaccountable overlords, more administrative overreach, and more threats to our constitutional rights. It's no accident that so many Americans today are frustrated with the elites who run this country. We keep getting government by insiders for insiders, and the people who actually sweat and toil and build America get left behind. Here's the hard truth the media will not tell you. Qualification for public service, especially at the federal level, should not be about box-checking, elite resume lists, or the right connections. It should be about proven judgment, leadership, and accountability. If you want to serve the public, you need to have faced the public. You need to have been the one making the call under fire, not just watching, not just helping. And that's why these hearings matter. Because too often, both parties have let these rubber stamp nominations go through. As a patriot, I'm fed up. I want to see people who have lived life, outside the DC bubble. People who have stood up under scrutiny, who know the cost of getting it wrong. The DOJ should not be a sandbox for the untested. Now, to wrap this up, let me say this: it is not personal. Ms. Westerkamp may be an extremely smart, decent person, but the job requires more than brains or the right friends. It requires courage, experience, and grit. It requires the kind of backbone you see in those who defend the Constitution, not just study it. And if we want a country that honors justice and freedom, we must demand better. We have to hold the Senate, the President, and every agency nominee to the highest standard. Thank you for listening. If you feel the same way, if you want to take action and stand for accountability in Washington, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Freedom Forge, and share this content with your family, your friends, and your fellow patriots. Let your voice be heard. The fight for America is not just in the ballot box. It's on every battlefield of ideas and every confirmation hearing that decides who gets power over us. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and stay free. Until next time, this is Freedom Forge, where liberty is always forged in truth.